Hi, my name is Leon Rowe, currency trader and trading coach at trading180.com, and welcome to this week's supply and demand Forex technical analysis. If you're new to this video, welcome. I hope you find some use in the supply and demand zones is the way that I trade it. If you are a returning watcher and subscriber, welcome back and thank you for coming back. Hope you all had a great trading week. And just a few things before I get started. This is going to be, probably about half hour, 40 minutes, as you probably guessed by the time slider. So if you want to, skip to your the currency pairs that you trade, then it's time stamped in the box below. I would always advise that you watch everything because I'll be dropping little hints and tips here and there with regards to supply and demand, especially if you're new. And before I get into really the technicals, I'm just gonna go over my my fundamental bias on my currencies, as I believe that fundamentals and sentiment are really the reasons for price movement. And what we do, or how I trade, is I look for my fundamental bias, and then I look for certain zones, demand or supply zones, on a technical price chart, and I do my technical analysis. It just makes things a lot easier when looking to trade, because what most traders who don't understand fundamental analysis and sentiment, they're just buying at support and selling at resistance, or buying at demand and selling at supply, not really understanding how to derive currency values. So obviously we trade in pairs, and we need to understand about traders and what traders consider value of the exchange rate between one currency and another, right? So we're always trying to be bargain hunters, right? And this is basically a spreadsheet which you can access for free. The link is in the description box below, and this is just my fundamental bias on the major currencies. These are ratings here, and I get my I do my analysis from a number of resources, Trading Economics being one of them. And again, if you want to get access to this and also the fundamental analysis course, right, again, sign up to the link in the description box below, right? And you get taken to the course, and I really go over fundamentals, why fundamentals, things like the business cycle, interest rate cycle, inflation, sentiment as well, right? And the fundamental analysis spreadsheet you can access from here. Click on that, and then it gives you my recent update, which is 25th of August. Right, and this doesn't take into account sentiment, by the way. Again, risk on and risk off sentiment. So I talk about risk on and risk off in video 6, right, robo investing. So just know that this is just only to do with fundamental, risk on sentiment, right? When risk is off, there are some currencies that are going to benefit from a risk off environment, mainly being the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc. So even though I might be neutral bearish on the yen and the Swiss franc, doesn't mean that I'm always going to be bearish if we're in a risk off environment. So with that out the way, let's get into the technicals. Right, so technical analysis, we start off on the Dow Jones Dollar Index, and from last week we came down exactly into this demand zone here, and then basically pushed up, right? So if you're not too sure about why that would have been, right, or one of the reasons why is because this was seen as an absolute bargain, right? And we know that to be true because this was a previous expensive area, right? This is an expensive area here, and we know that to be true because buyers are no longer willing to push prices higher, right? Can't put prices higher, and then all of a sudden prices go higher, which means that the dollar was seen as an absolute bargain here at some point, right? When prices come down to here, this is where we, again, as retail traders, are looking to take advantage of what was once considered a bargain area, right? We don't know how far or if this is going to work, but this is the premise behind supply and demand zones, right? So this time, it did work out. Traders saw this as a bargain before, pushed prices past what we considered an expensive area. So when prices do come back into this area, you know, we did get dollar reaction, as well as, you know, obviously the fundamental backdrop with interest rate hikes, etc. Right? So the dollar index is a, you know, measure of the dollar's strength against the basket of major currencies. So we look at this if we're trading dollar, you know, related currency pairs. And what we try and do is correspond this demand level to other currency pairs like the dollar yen, dollar Swiss, and dollar CAD, etc. Right? And if it lines up and we get some buying on the dollar index, then we should get some buying on those other currencies. Right? So last week, this is exactly what happened. So we don't trade the dollar index. We just use this as also confluence, you know, in the measure of dollar strength, right? So that happened on really the 22nd. It kind of approached into the 22nd, 23rd is when it kind of went higher. So when we look on, you know, do our analysis on the dollar yen, for example, right? Dollar yen, we saw 21st, 22nd. You know, dollar strength really come into the market, but this was a bit of a it didn't really, it's a bit of a difficult one because this was the previous demand zone here from last week. We actually kind of broke through, you know, a bit of a stop hunt, to be fair, and then we created this demand zone this week. So if you look at last week's video, this is where this purple area would be where the demand zone would have been, and then, you know, we got some dollar strength, and then we ended up going higher, right? So this week, if you are you know, buying the dollar, what you'd want to do is really wait for a pullback, right? If we do get some weakness, go back to the dollar index. If we do get some weakness, which we are, potentially into this zone, right? Before looking for a higher, before looking for some confirmation on the dollar yen, or if we do break down through this demand zone and we come down here, this is where we'd be looking to, you know, potentially take buy trades as well, right, within the dollar yen. And again, the yen benefiting from risk off, you know, sentiment. So if we do get, you know, trade wars, well, we're in a trade war environment anyway, but if it kind of ramps up and tariffs, you know, start increasing, and, you know, there's some you know, some Trump starts really, you know, ramping up the rhetoric, then potentially we could have, from a sentiment point of view, you know, prices, you know, react off of this supply zone. But also this week or this month, we also have, if you go to trading economics, right, we have the Fed is likely to raise hikes in September, which is usually positive for a you know, a currency, right? So we should get some bullish fundamentals within the market. And also, this is what we call the CME Fed Watch tool, and this is basically the percentage of traders, institutional traders, that are looking at the probability of a potential Fed hike, right? So probabilities of a Fed hike is 96% at the moment. So if we do get, going back to the technicals, if we do get prices, you know, come down, doesn't mean that, you know, oh, Leon was wrong or anything like that. It just means that you're buying the dollar at value, right? Think about the price on the left hand side, right? You're buying the dollar at a bargain. This is what we're trying to do, right? Is I'm not worried about, you know, trying to sell the dollar here at a supply level. I'm looking to buy the dollar at bargain, and if this doesn't work out, then I'll buy the dollar right here. Yeah. So we also got some technical analysis basics, which I'll go into in the next currency pair, which is going to be the dollar Swiss franc, right? Now, dollar Swiss franc, I'm actually in this trade, and again, we've come down into a demand zone from last week. Pretty much been waiting for this, you know, this demand zone here, right, for a bit. And what we want to do, or what I do, and this is just some of the technical analysis basics that I'll give to you. There's a lot more that goes into this. So what we do is we look at, you know, the supply and demand zones, which are in a demand zone, and then we look at value ranges, and value ranges are pretty much just highs and lows, higher highs and lower highs, right? And if you want to understand a bit more about, you know, where the best areas of value are on a price chart, there is a introduction into supply and demand in the description box below. Now, value range tool is just a Fibonacci tool where I've just you know, taken off the Fibonacci numbers, and I've, you know, basically created a high, a low, and 50% is fair value. So if price has been ranging between this high and this low, right, we know this is an expensive area, this is a cheap area, right? So if this is a cheap area, consider the cheap area. We don't know for sure 100%, but this is going to be the best area to really buy. As we know in the past, this is where traders considered this to be absolute, you know, an absolute bargain or a value or add value, and they push, you know, prices higher. When prices come back down into this zone, this is where I'm looking to be a buyer, right? Because of obviously, you know, before, right, where you had buyers looking to you know, we consider this a bargain. So we have the supply and demand order equation, right, which is basically where other traders are going to be looking to also buy and sell and take profit, right? So other traders outside of supply and demand who don't really understand value, just technical traders, where are they looking to buy and sell, right? So first thing we look for is horizontal support and resistance, right? And we can see that this level here, you know, resistance, 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 some support here, resistance, resistance, support, support. So this is an area where traders would be looking to potentially trade, and you've got support here, right? And based off of just past support and resistance, we also have support and resistance traders looking to do what? Buy, right? So you've got demand, you've got value, and now you've got, you know, support and resistance traders looking to buy and add to the demand equation here, right? They don't really know anything about value. They're just looking, you know, from a technical perspective, right? But it helps us as value traders, right, get into, you know, a buy trade and obviously an imbalance in supply and demand, because we've got to think about who is going to be selling at this level here, right? It's going to be more buyers. It should be more buyers than sellers. Next thing as well is round numbers, right? So we've got the 98 round number. Price didn't actually come down right into this 98 round number, but I'm willing to put in a small position just in case prices end up going higher, right? But if prices do go lower, right, I will, you know, add in to this 98 round number as well, right? Because round numbers are where traders will tend to, you know, buy and also take profit. So if you were a seller here, right, if you're selling up here, where are you going to be looking to take profit? And what is your take profit? A sell order, right? Because you have to, I'm sorry, a buy order, right? So because if you try to sell, if you did press sell here, in order to exit that trade and take profit, it's a buy. You have to do the opposite to exit, right? And if we buy, then and we're looking to take profit, then we got to sell, right? So we've got this move down here from traders who got short. They're looking to take profit. That's buy orders, right? We also have diagonal support and resistance. In this example, we don't really have any diagonal support and resistance, but it's not, you know, absolutely necessary that you get all A, B, and C. As long as, you know, that you get at least one of these, you know, would be an odds enhancer when it comes to, or one of the odds enhancers when it comes to looking at supply and demand. And then we have dynamic support and resistance, and these are moving averages, right, which I use. Common moving averages that are taught 21, 50, 100, and 200 EMAs and SMAs, right? So 100 and 200 EMA and SMAs, right? We've come into this demand zone. We've got a bit of confluence with the 200 EMA, right? So it's bounced off of here, right? And you know, we could get some obviously traders trading moving average bounces, right? Especially the 200 being a major one. We should get some buying here on the lower time frame chart, right? And this is what I've done. I zoomed into, you know, a 4-hour time frame chart, and this is where I ended up, you know, entering, right, around here. In fact, it was a 6-hour. I'll show you. 6-hour chart, and I ended up entering when I got in. I think it was around the 9842 level. So I was around here, 404142 level. So I'm around here, right? And again, if we go back to the daily, right, this is where other traders are looking to obviously buy as well of moving average bounces, especially, you know, because you've had this the first touch after prices have crossed the moving averages, right? Which is a common strategy for traders to end up buying. And again, the link is in the description box below, and I explain about that strategy as well. So we have, you know, if we're looking at the supply and demand equation as well as value, we've got, you know, we're buying at a potentially cheap area, right? Got demand here, previous demand, first touch of demand. We also have, you know, horizontal support and resistance, round number potentially. We haven't got any diagonal, but we've got dynamic support and resistance as well. So we're just building, you know, a case for why we want to be buyers here in this zone, in this area, right? So that's just the basics of what I actually go through as well. There are some other stuff as well that I look at, you know, for example, from a psychology perspective, something I coined the capture pain relief zones as well. We've got a capture pain relief zone breakout one right here as well, and as well some other stuff as well. So but those are the basics to help, you know, traders out if you do want to understand why traders are, you know, buying and selling, and why we should have, you know, more demand than supply. But again, overall, technicals mean nothing without fundamentals, right, and sentiment. Now again, if the market decides that this isn't value, right, then it isn't value. It's only one trade. We manage our risk and we move forward, right? This is only a trade. We don't bet the house on it. You know, we don't go out and, you know, start placing, you know, 20% of your account on this trade just because, you know, I'm saying so. Manage your risk, take the trade. If it loses, right, then we just look for the next demand zone, etc., right? But again, technicals are not the reasons why you know, prices move. It's really fundamentals and sentiment, right? We're just passengers as to what the big banks and, you know, really want to do as far as buying and selling. So that's my analysis, technical analysis on the dollar Swiss. If you are a buyer, right, if you want to be a buyer of the Swiss franc, then, you know, this is really an expensive area. Don't know why you'd be buying down here, right? What you'd want to be doing is looking for at least a pullback to above fair value. Anything above fair value for the Swiss is a cheaper area, and you'd be looking for that area to be your first area to try and get short. Looking for the moving forward to the dollar CAD. Dollar CAD, we have, you know, this area. So we came into this demand zone last week, and you can see we bounced off of the 100 EMA and SMA as well right here. Again, we had a bit of support and resistance from that level there, you know, resistance. In fact, that was a bit of a false breakout, so you can move that as well. Say false breakout, don't like using that term, but traders use it all the time. I'd rather use that as probably more of a stop hunt, depending on what happened to the left of that anyway. But anyway, so you got resistance, 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 and then we have some support. So traders, we've been looking at this level. You can see the reaction on a lower time frame, right, where we would have came in. Again, you can always zoom in. Let me take off this right here. If you look at this area here as a level of support and resistance, support, resistance, resistance, support, prices came down, bit of a fake out, but then prices end up going higher. So depending on what time frame you do enter on, there was an entry, always an entry around this area right here to the upside within this, you know, demand zone. But getting back to the daily analysis, potentially we could have another area to look to buy depending on how low we come. If not, then we'd be looking for prices to come down to this area. And again, just apply the supply and demand technical analysis basics to your trades, right? If you do get any of these, if you don't, it's not necessarily the end of the world, but what I would say is do your research when it comes to fundamental research when it comes to the dollar and the Canadian dollar as well, which one you do want to be a buyer or a seller of, right? If you're looking to be a seller, right, this is where you're going to be looking to get short. And again, if you're probably looking at support and resistance, I would say from way back, probably looking at, oh, not there, probably looking at that area right there where you've had, you know, support, bit of resistance and support there, right there. Bit messy around here, but you can see where it reacted and then reacted here. So again, if prices do come up, this would be the first area. And you've probably also got an area of diagonal support and resistance within there as well. Maybe not so much. Matter of fact, if prices do come up, you might probably end up breaking it. And then from a moving average perspective, let's look at the 21 and the 50. You've got the 50 right above it, which comes into this zone as well. So if prices do come straight up into this area, could have some confluence. So those are your areas, supply and demand. Let's go to the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Take that off. What I'm waiting for personally is for prices really to come back up into this demand zone right here before looking to establish shorts. If I get the right kind of price action, right? There were traders that would have been trading support and resistance, the underside of that level. Now, why didn't I, you know, trade this level? Or why, why wouldn't I have traded this level? And why didn't I? Is really because I want some confluence of value, right? If I know that this is an expensive area and this is a cheap area, I need to trade within supply zones and demand zones. If prices are not within a supply or demand zone, then I'm really just not interested, right? I don't care if prices, you know, react off of support and resistance. Support, everyone else trades support and resistance, right? And that's not to say that it doesn't work, but I need to have an extra edge on my side when I'm trading, and supply and demand gives me an edge. Support and resistance really isn't, you know, the greatest edge in the world, because if it was, then you'd have a lot more successful traders. And due to ESMA, the new ESMA rules, I don't know if you've ever seen on your broker where it has, probably at the bottom or somewhere on the screen, where it has the amount of traders that actually are losing, right, on their accounts. And it ranges between anywhere between, you know, 70 to 80% of traders, you know, are losing, from their accounts, right? And what do the majority of those traders trade? Support and resistance, right? So there's got to be something more than just support and resistance, technical analysis trading. Obviously you've got psychology and things like that, and inverse risk reward and strategies. But for me, I'm trying to, you know, have as much confluence in a level as possible from fundamentals, technicals and psychology, as I was taught by an ex-hedge fund trader, how to trade. And you know, that's the reason why I'm looking at, you know, supply and demand zones and not support and resistance zones alone. So for me, I'm going to be patient and wait for prices to come up to this supply zone before looking to establish any type of short, because I'm looking to buy the US dollar against the New Zealand dollar. Fundamentally, if we go back to our fundamental chart, I'm bullish on the dollar and neutral. It's neutral, slight bearish on the New Zealand dollar. And I think there was a rate statement, or sorry, rate statement, but RBNZ statement, central bank statement, where the governor said, I can't remember his name now, but he said that if they were going to do anything regarding rates, they were probably going to be looking to cut interest rates from the New Zealand dollar. So they're on a interest rate cutting cycle, potentially hold cut, whereas the new US dollar is on a hiking cycle, right? Like to hike rates, you've got divergence between the two. So for this pair, all I'm really looking to do is get short, to be fair, and this is going to be the first area I'm looking to get short. So if prices do come up, it's a better price for me to try and get short, and if that fails, then I'll just be looking to get short right here. If you are looking to buy, then obviously you'd be looking for prices to come down. If you're looking to buy the New Zealand dollar, down to this demand zone before looking at establishing any long positions. Moving on to the pound dollar. So again, we're in a bit of prices have reacted to this demand zone. And again, this is probably just profit taking. With the pound, bit of sentiment analysis. You've got Brexit coming up, a lot of uncertainty around the pound. So even though I am, but the fundamental analysis is neutral, slight bullish from a fundamental perspective. Just from a sentiment perspective, I can't buy I'm personally not buying the pound. Again, doesn't mean that there won't be opportunities to buy and make money off the pound. It's just obviously I'm looking to buy into the strongest currency, which is the dollar at the moment. So if we have a value range from here, we've basically come up into fair value and reacted, but we haven't got any supply zones, right? So this is going to be your first real supply zone right now, unless prices really create a supply zone. And how would prices create a supply zone? What they would pretty much do is you would need something like this to happen. So you need maybe a move up. Actually, matter of fact, no, you wouldn't. You would probably need something like this right now, right? If prices made a new lower low, right, then this area would become your first supply zone, and then you would be looking to short here. Or what you could see is prices make new highs, spit a new high, doesn't necessarily have to come up into here, but then create a new lower high, and then prices come back up into this area of supply before looking to get short. But as we see it at the moment, right, at the moment, even though we do have supply here, I'm not a big big fan of this type of supply, because this could just be a pullback. I have no idea. I need to see certain criteria needs to fit for me to really be drawing a supply zone on here, right? So your first area really to look to get short at the moment is going to be this area here. If you're looking to buy the pound, right, because we could enter a range between that high and that low, doesn't mean that prices are going to go lower, and below this 1.26 level, right, prices could range, right, price acceptance between buyers and sellers could take place, and this could be the range, as we've had price discovery, which is basically a trending market, and then we could enter into a price acceptance, which is basically a value range, right? So let's just get rid of some of these arrows. If you're looking to buy the pound, this would be probably your first area to look to get long, right? Moving on to the pound yen, and again we had prices really react off of this demand zone here, this being the overall range. You can see this is obviously a wide range, an expensive area, cheap area. We can see where prices have reacted, right? Again, being the pound, this is probably maybe just some profit taking from this high to this low. So again, I'll definitely be looking to get short on this currency pair the closer we get into negotiations with Brexit, whether it's a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit. So at the moment, we haven't got anything to the short side until really all the way up in this 146 level, 145.5 level. But again, prices may create in the coming weeks some supply zones. So that's where we would be looking to get short. If you're looking to get long, this is where you'd be looking to potentially get long. Moving on to the pound Swiss, we did have this hidden demand, and this week we had prices react and come down. So if you were a 1 hour trader, this is what the chart would have looked like, and then there was an opportunity to try and get short to the downside. I trade really 4 hour time frame charts, and I wasn't necessarily trying to get short on the pound here. I really want more of a pullback, to be fair. But if you did get short on here and made some money, a bit of profit, well done. If you're looking to buy the pound, potentially this is going to be your first area. This is going to be your second area to look to buy. you know, the pound. Moving on to the euro dollar, and I am actually short. Well, I got short in here, got stopped out on Friday, and again, just a bit of analysis from a supply and demand. So I'll show you my thinking behind this really. So we had horizontal support and resistance. In fact, let me go through it. Right, so price could potentially value between here and here, or here and here, right? Or here and here. We don't necessarily know, right? It can range between any of these supply zones, right? So what we saw, and this is a great tool here, is we saw this price action here on the Thursday, right? So on a lower time frame chart, there was an entry for me. We also had the confluence when it comes to supply and demand order equation of this, you know, horizontal support and resistance. So we had, you know, resistance here, bit of support, right? You can see resistance here, and prices came down. We had this trend line as well. So this was an area that I was looking to also get short in, and we also had, I think it was the 50, I think it was, yeah, it was the 50 MAs around this area as well. So from a textbook setup, you know, from a technical analysis, supply and demand basics, you know, this pretty much fit a lot of the criteria. This is where I'm going to get, you know, it's where I kind of got short, stop above the highs. But then we also had on Friday, you know, a bit of, well, I would probably consider, you know, some stop hunting, right? And just got pipped out, to be fair, but I don't mind re-entering on my bias if I again get some price action on a lower time frame chart, which indicates that this is indeed a stop hunt, and I will just get short again. I go for more than 1-to-1 risk reward, so you know, I'll make up the loss. But if that doesn't happen, so be it. What I'll do is I'll look for potential price action to the short side right here, you know, to the downside. So I did get short here, got stopped out on the Friday, and then if prices this week start to come down, if I see the right type of price action or my type of price action, then I will attempt to get short again on this currency pair. If not, then I will look to get short around here. Now, if you are looking to get long on the euro, let's get rid of some of this. Right, let's get rid of that. Then what you'd be looking to do, because this may create, if this goes higher, right, this creates a higher low, higher high scenario, right? And with higher highs and higher lows, we know that this potentially could be, or this is a level of demand. So then if prices go higher, what you'd be looking for is prices to come back into this demand zone, looking to get long. And what you do have as some confluence as well is you've got some horizontal support and resistance around that area as well. So support, and then we've got some support here. So this is where, this area here is where you'd be looking to potentially get long around this, probably this 1.15 area, right? And again, just do your technical analysis basics. I doubt you'll have obviously any of the dynamic or diagonal support and resistance to aid you. So this is where you'd be looking to get long, and obviously we delete this supply zone here, right? So wait for a pullback, prices go higher, right? So yeah, if that doesn't fail, if that fails, then you'd be looking for prices to really come down into this demand zone right here. In fact, what I'll do is I will make this is the new demand zone here, right there, and get rid of that one. So you'd be looking for prices to come down into that area here, and again, this would be, if you were looking for confluence, that would be where you'd have your support and resistance with confluence with this, you know, support, resistance, resistance, bit of resistance there, right? So it all fits in with the analysis, right? Moving on to the euro yen, and from last week we saw this demand zone, and prices really reacted off of here, and now we're into the high end of this supply zone. So if you do see some bearish price action, you may want to look to get short if there is a risk, if risk off sentiment comes into the market, right? Take advantage right now on the lower time frame charts. If you're looking to get long on the euro, really you'd have to wait for quite a big pullback. In fact, what I'll do is, I think this is an area, the first area again right here, you'd be looking to get long on right here. I'm looking to buy, I'm looking to probably buy anywhere down here. I really want to be actually a buyer of this currency pair. This is a great setup for the last couple of weeks. I was looking for price to really come down just a bit more before looking to get long, but didn't actually happen. So I'll be waiting for price to come down here before looking to establish any long positions. That's providing that there is a risk on environment. Now, again, if risk on continues, right, then I don't really expect this supply zone to hold, and you'd be looking for prices to really come up into this supply zone anywhere around here, and then we might create some sort of demand depending on if we get any higher lows and higher highs. So those are your options when it comes to the euro yen, euro pound. I think with Brexit going on, you've really got, really I'm looking to probably buy this pair again, pull back into this demand zone before looking to get long. If you're looking to get short anywhere, probably right now maybe the best place to try and get short, even though again, you're not really buying into pound strength. The closer we get into Brexit, this will be your second area to try and look to get short, right? And yeah, I think that's pretty much the analysis on the euro pound. And this currency pair, my bias is obviously to the upside, and that's purely on a sentiment play. Yes, again, I do have pound neutral, slight bullish, and the euro is neutral at the moment, but simply from a sentiment point of view, I can't really see the pound really strengthening unless they come to some sort of historic agreement when it comes to the pound. But as long as there's uncertainty around the pound, I can't see investors really looking to buy the pound. So moving on to the euro Swiss, and we have made bit of a higher high, so this will become the higher low. If prices do come back into this zone, this will be the first area to buy. Personally, you're buying really again around the highs, so I'd probably want more of a deeper pullback before looking to establish any longs. If you're looking to get short, this would be the first area you're looking to get short on, right? And if this is going to be the first range from a shorting perspective, right? So you'd be looking to get short here and potentially take profit around, fair value. If you're looking to buy the euro against the Swiss franc, and this is going to be the range, then what you're doing is you're buying really above fair value. And so for me, I'm not really a fan of buying above fair value. Some people do, doesn't mean it won't work, but I'm not really a fan of it. I'd probably really want prices to kind of go a bit higher, right? If prices do come up to anywhere around here, then I'd be looking to establish, a long position around this fair value in conjunction with this demand zone here as well, right? And again, never forget to apply the supply and demand technical analysis basics to all of these currency pairs. The reason why I don't do it on for this video, otherwise this video would be extremely long. So I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, on the dollar Swiss and the euro dollar trade setups that I took last week, and then just apply that to, you know, your currency pairs. And if you do want me to go into a bit of analysis on a particular currency pair, just comment in the section box below, and I'll get back to you and do a video for you. Right? Euro, Aussie, Australian dollar was a bit weak, and then we got some strength, and it was really on some political uncertainty with the government of Australia. So you had this really kind of large push up, and the really more of an Australian dollar sell-off, to be fair. So this is what happened this week, and you'll see it on all the other Australian pairs as well. So it kind of took out last week. You know, there was some supply zones right here, right, and it really just took it all out. Again, sentiment is really the driver of price and value, right? So and fundamentals. So even though we get supply zones, doesn't mean that price is going to react off of them if the market doesn't see that as, you know, potential value. So we have got a level right here where prices are reacting off of, and this is because, again, we got a bit of stability with the I think there was a new governor that was announced or something anyway with the Australian government. A bit of calm came into the market, so now we're getting, you know, some profit taking potentially from any traders that took, you know, that bought down here in this demand zone, right? And then actually this wasn't a demand zone last week, to be fair, but it created a demand zone when it moved higher. So if anyone did buy around here, where they're going to be taking profit, probably around here. So into this supply zone, this could be potentially a decent short, right? There is some stability regarding the Australian government and elections. From a buying perspective, you'd have to probably wait for prices to really come all the way back down into this zone if you're looking to buy the euro this week. Those are your options. Australian dollar, US dollar, and again the same thing, where we saw prices, you know, come down and really kind of sell off into this demand zone, and then again we got some calm within the markets, and now prices are you know, heading higher. So technically this isn't this is a supply zone, but this isn't something that I would normally consider a supply zone that I would draw. But because we had such a strong supply out of this area, I am drawing this area as a level of supply. Also, we do have, you know, a long-term trend line, right? So prices can come up into this area here and look to sell off, right? And I think we also have, if it's not the 100, it'll be, the moving averages coming into this area here, right? So again, potential setup this week for the Australian dollar, US dollar currency pair if you're looking to try and get short. And again, wait for your own price action. Just because prices come up into here doesn't mean that you should take every single pin bar or engulfing candle. Wait for, you know, the right kind of price action, and then look to potential get short. And again, if that level doesn't work, look to get short around this area here, because we could potentially be entering into a range where price is being accepted between buyers and sellers, right? Between either that low and that high, right? We're buying at potential value here. If that value doesn't work out, then this is going to be the next area where prices may, you know, want to range from, right? So prices may range between this 748 level and this 0.72 area. We have no idea, but we're just looking to be buyers, right, of you know, the currency at what we would consider either, you know, a cheap level or potentially an expensive area, depending on what currency you're buying, right? So prices may want to range between that low and that high, right? We're at fair value at the moment between this low and this high, with some confluence and supply and demand order equation of this diagonal trend line, and also dynamic support and resistance, right? So last currency pair, the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. And I was saying last week that prices were ranging between, you know, this low and this high. And even though prices did come down right into this larger demand zone, I did feel that if this is risk on comes into the market, that this was going to be potentially a stop hunt. You can check out my last week's video, all right? And you know, with stops being around here, taking out all the stops, and then we get now this kind of price action here, right, where you have higher highs being made. Sorry, one sec. Where you have higher highs being made, right? So you got higher lows, higher highs, prices move higher, prices move lower, prices move higher, right? Zoom in a bit. So this is what's happening. So now to me, this actually does look like, you know, this was a stop hunt. So last week, you know, it was really time to get, you know, long around this demand zone. The only reason why I didn't was simply because there was obviously uncertainty around the Australian government, you know, so it wasn't necessarily the best entry from a from a sentiment perspective. It was very, very difficult for me to, you know, to buy into this area here. Obviously, you know, there was a bit of calm and prices did turn around. So from a technical perspective, you know, it looks like this is, you know, a stop hunt, and we could potentially see prices, you know, move higher to here. And if you want to be a shorter of the Australian dollar, then this would be the first area. I'm a bit, you know, bit bullish from a fundamental perspective on the Australian dollar, neutral, slight bullish, especially with when it comes to the Japanese yen. This was an absolute bargain, but it's just from a sentiment point of view, it was a bit difficult for me to actually buy into this area here that created a higher high in this demand zone, right? But now if prices do come back down into this area, this may want to be, you know, may want to be a buyer here, depending on how far prices move up. And if prices do come further down into this zone, this is where I'm going to be looking to be a buyer as well, providing that obviously sentiment is risk on. So that is the analysis for this week. If you have any comments or questions, again, just email me at info@trading180.com, or leave a comment in the description box below. You can check out the other videos as well that I have. I've just been really busy over the summer. I'm gonna, you know, we'll create some new content for you guys as well. I've been slacking a little bit, but it's been busy with some personal life things as well during the week, as well as trading and some other business stuff. So I'm gonna, you know, definitely start producing some more content, as well as obviously your usual weekly supply and demand zone analysis. Please, if you do press like, subscribe, so you don't miss any videos, and share if you can. And hopefully you have a great trading week. And until the next video, take care. So if you'd like to receive the best supply and demand Forex levels absolutely free, click on the link in the description box below, enter your email address, and we'll send you the levels that we have just analyzed in this video. You'll get all of the major Forex currency pairs, and you'll get regular updates and never miss a Forex trading opportunity.